speaking a short time ago. Well, David Crane was founding chief prosecutor of the Special Court for Sierra Leone, who indicted the Liberian President, Charles Taylor, and founding member of the Syrian Accountability Project, which has compiled a 20-page indictment against President Assad. He joins us now via webcam from North Carolina. David Crane, welcome to BBC News. What difference will all the words that we're hearing from President Trump and the UN really make to President Assad?
Not much. The only way we're going to be able to get his attention is we continue our work in creating trial packages and evidence against him so that someday he can be, and his henchmen can be, held accountable for war crimes and crimes against humanity. But the geopolitical situation now and in the near and immediate future doesn't augur well for any kind of accountability.
How significant do you think this latest chapter might be in your document?
Well, certainly I created a task force this morning to begin to look at this specifically, but certainly chemical attacks like the one in 2013 as well as now, and among other horrendous crimes he's committed in the detention facilities, which we uncovered in the Caesar report, which I co-authored. These terrible acts will in fact be reviewed, and criminal information will be compiled so that we can hand over this information to a future domestic, regional, or international prosecutor.
How helpful is it when presidents of other countries talk about red lines being crossed and then not actually carrying out any action when those lines are crossed?
You know, it's interesting. It's not helpful at all, to be honest with you. We saw anecdotally as the line was crossed back in that fateful summer of 2013, the number of incidents that led to war crimes and crimes against humanity actually increased as all the parties, which there are many of, began to realize that the West, to include the United States, NATO, or whomever, is not going to come in and stop this agony. And so the Civil War actually got worse after that red line issue.
What, if any, part will Russia have in the work that you're doing, given that today the Russians have said that they believe that it was not the work of the Syrian forces but an airstrike against a rebel arms dump?
Well, again, they are also parties to potential review as well. They are committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. At this point in time, Russia will not be helpful in these types of efforts that many of us around the world are working on. However, they are critical in some type of ceasefire or peace arrangement. So we have to work with them at this point to try to come up to a political solution before we can move forward as far as accountability is concerned.
You've shown that you've been patient in the past, but how likely is it that President Assad will ever be prosecuted, will ever stand trial? Because he can always say, I was facing terror attacks against the state of Syria.
Well, he can use that as his defense, actually, but at the end of the day, I used the vignette with Charles Taylor just 12 years ago. He never thought he was going to be held accountable for what he did to West Africa, and now he's sitting in one of Her Majesty's maximum security prisons for the rest of his life. I can assure you that President Assad hears our footsteps, and someday we'll knock on his door.
David Crane from the Syrian Accountability Project in North Carolina, thank you very much for your time.